Amnesia Rebirth, a new descent into darkness from the creators of the iconic Amnesia series, a harrowing journey through desolation and despair, exploring the limits of human resilience. So hello everyone, and welcome to my review of Amnesia Rebirth. It's really crazy how the time flies, because it's been exactly 10 years since the first Amnesia The Dark Descent came. So before I start this review, I would really like to take this moment and thank Frictional Games for providing me with a free review copy of this game. And I know that these things might sound silly, but not every content creator or reviewer can afford to buy and play the game as much as this. So that's why I'm really grateful, and I'm really happy that they provided me with a copy. It's kind of really amazing that there are still developers like Frictional Games who still help out small content creators such as myself. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So let's go back to the game. So is the new Amnesia series a step forward or step backwards for the series? Well, I guess it kind of depends on who's playing it. If you're a kind of hardcore horror gamer or not, or just a regular gamer. But here I am to tell you my honest opinions, and that way you can decide if this game is really for you. I think that this game really had some great moments, and it has also some parts that could have been a bit better in my opinion. So let's start with the story. Amnesia Rebirth takes us in 1930s in Algeria, when the country was still part of French colony, and you're playing as young Tassi Trianon, who was for the most part of her expedition in Algeria. But something happens and you awake alone in the middle of a storm in a plane, and after you crash, the adventure begins. So you start looking for clues that was left from your crew, and that way you're trying to figure out what the heck happened and where are all the people from the expedition. And I won't spoil the story too much, cause it's kind of narrative driven story, and of course with horror elements. It's a horror game. For some weird reason, as you progress through the story, you travel through the history of the region of Algeria, and obviously the developers really took care of the culture and the history of the country. And in my honest opinion, I never really had any wow moments in this game, and maybe it's because the first Amnesia was so amazing, and for many people it's definitely the best horror game out there, because it was the most revolutionary horror game of all time when it came out, which after many years, many developers tried to copy the game and make a clone out of it, but they just didn't succeed. Visually, unfortunately, this doesn't really look good, the game, and it looks old and it feels old. And I was never a kind of a gamer who would rather prefer graphics over other segments of the game. But this is, I mean seriously, this is engine from even their previous title Soma that came out in 2015, so 5 years ago. So it was still used then, and even then it shown signs of age. But I don't mean to make the game look bad. The game actually isn't ugly, but it's not also extremely beautiful. But I gotta say, with its design, it does really have its moments. Because unlike the original, this game really pushes its setting in areas. So instead of being in castle like in the original, in the first game, this time you have more open areas and in caves and outside and in the desert to look around, because as the story progresses, the areas also changes, and I kind of think that it feels like really like a breath of fresh air, because once I was out of those caves, man, I really felt relieved and happy. Like I felt like so excited. I was like rushing outside of the cave. So the developers also, I gotta say, did not disappoint in with the audio, because they know how much audio is important to an atmosphere to horror games, and their ambient sounds are perfect with its setting. Each area is special with its sounds, and I honestly never felt like I wasn't there. It really always made me feel like I was in a cave. They really nailed that part. So let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay, I mean, this is a first-person game, so basic. You can walk, you can crouch, you can sprint. You can interact just like in the previous Amnesia games. You can interact with lots of objects. Whether they're important or not, that depends on what are you actually picking up. Some items that you pick up takes you to flashbacks of the story, so it kind of connects you to the main protagonist and her friends. There are also running sections and sneaking sections where you shouldn't be seen, and there are also puzzle sections which aren't that difficult but also aren't easy, which is kind of a good balance. But the most important question is this game scary at all? Well, at first I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect, because I was like, remembering the first game and how it felt, and when I started to play it at first, and you go into the first cave, you kind of get matches for light, and I became kind of nervous because the character starts panicking in the dark. When it gets darker, she has to take some kind of medication. So I guess that was in the beginning, but later I just got used to it. And there are sections where it does get scary, but it's not really as scary as the original, where I always felt haunted, and I always felt like being watched, and I was always in the danger constantly, and I was even trying in this game like to think that maybe somebody, but none of that happened really. So don't really expect moments where you're gonna get lots of jump scares, or you're gonna get that moment where it's so scary you're gonna just stop playing. It's, I think, a good sequel, and I think also one thing that I forgot to say is that one bad thing about also the game is that loading screens are really long, man, and I've been playing on PlayStation 4. Some games do need loading, like Red Dead or Grand Theft Auto, or I don't know, Bloodborne, but this game also takes really long time to load, and I don't know why. Sometimes when it's loading it shows some kind of flashbacks, and sometimes it's just jump scares, just creatures popping out. But this game isn't really the scariest game that you will ever play, but in my opinion, honestly, it's really worth of its sequel, and it's really worth buying to play and experience. The price of this game is 25 euros on Steam. which is almost $30 if you're from America, and I really wish more games would cost this much. So as soon as I stop talking about this, I'm heading back to Algeria, and I'm gonna put my headphones and turn off the light and enjoy this game until the end. And if you find this game interesting, I will leave down in the description link of this game for Steam and PlayStation 4. And if you're new to the channel, I do every Wednesday a review video, so make sure to hit the bell notification and subscribe for more upcoming videos. And thank you all so much for watching until the end, and I will see you in the next video. Until then,